What if I told you that the reason you feel stuck, unseen, or overlooked is because God is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine? That the very thing you're fighting, the silence, the obscurity, the isolation, is the very thing that will shape you into the person you are meant to be? History proves it, Scripture confirms it. And today I'm going to show you why disappearing is not a setback. It's your setup for transformation. Look around. We live in a world obsessed with being seen. Social media has convinced us that visibility equals value, that if people don't see you grind, your growth, or your greatness, then somehow it doesn't exist. But what if I told you that some of the most powerful transformations in human history happened off the grid? That the most anointed, world-changing men and women had to disappear before they could truly emerge? Think about it. Moses disappeared into the wilderness for 40 years before he confronted Pharaoh. David was hidden in caves before he became king. Even Jesus retreated to the desert for 40 days before launching his ministry. Why? Because separation always precedes elevation. And if you refuse to embrace your season of isolation, you may never walk into your true calling. Let's break this down. Why does God allow seasons of isolation? Why does he sometimes hide the very people he plans to use? 1. God hides you to transform you. Example, Paul in Galatians 1 verses 17 to 18. After a dramatic encounter with Jesus, he didn't rush into ministry. He disappeared into Arabia for 3 years. Why? Because before God could use him, he had to unteach and repurpose him. Many of you feel like you're in a waiting room, like nothing is happening. But what if this isn't a delay, it's divine development? 2. To protect you. Example, Joseph in Genesis 37 to 41. God gave him dreams of greatness, but before the palace, he had to endure the pit and the prison. His hidden season wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Some of you are asking, why won't God open doors for me? But what if he's closing them for your own good? To keep you from stepping into something before you're ready. 3. To break your dependence on validation. Example, Elijah in 1 Kings 17 verses 3 to 4. Before he could call down fire, he had to hide by the brook Cherith, where God fed him in secret. He learned to depend on God alone. If your identity is built on applause, you'll collapse when the clapping stops. God sometimes pulls you away to detox you from the need to be seen. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They resist the season of disappearing. They get frustrated, anxious, and desperate to be noticed. But when you force your way into visibility before God has finished shaping you, it leads to disaster. Example, King Saul in 1 Samuel 15 verses 10 to 28 was anointed but not processed. He couldn't wait for God's timing and took matters into his own hands. The result? He lost everything. The prodigal son in Luke 15 verses 11 to 32 demanded his inheritance before he was ready, and it nearly destroyed him. If you rush the process, you can end up with influence but not character, a platform but no power, and when the storms come, you'll collapse. So how do you embrace this season instead of fighting it? Here are 4 things you must do. 1. Withdraw to the secret place, Matthew 6 verse 6. Jesus said, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Why? Because what God does in private will be revealed in public. 2. Stop seeking approval, start seeking God. John 5 verse 44. Stop chasing likes and applause. Your transformation happens when no one is watching. 3. Develop in the dark, seeds grow in the hidden soil before breaking through the surface. Cut distractions, step away from toxic cycles, and seek solitude with God. 4. Let God work on your character before your calling. Your gift might open doors, but only your character will keep you there. God isn't just preparing something for you, he is preparing you for something. Are you in a season where doors are closing, where prayers seem unanswered? What if I told you that you may be on the verge of breakthrough? The world may not see yet, but your time is coming. Listen, if you're watching this, it's not an accident. God is calling some of you to disappear, so he prepare you for something greater than you ever imagined. Don't fight the process. Surrender to it. If this spoke to you, I challenge you. Drop "I'm ready" in the comments, subscribe, and join this movement. Let's build a Generaton that's not afraid to disappear, so we can reappear transformed.